hey, we got some more squatting, and then some more squatting, and then some more squatting. That's kind of what's been going on. It's been a lot of the same old stuff. It's nothing too exciting. It's just my training, and it doesn't look all that different from your own. I think that's probably been the issue with this journal, and perhaps why I have lost a little oomph when it comes to just what I've put out here. I think that that video that I did with Abdullah, where he just kind of followed me around for a few days, was to me. I put that out and I'm like, man, that's way more interesting, but I don't think I could do that with myself for an extended period of time. I'm a pretty private person, and I think I don't think that's a bad thing, but I do think that sometimes when it comes to something like this, it can be difficult to just make you guys feel really included when it comes to all of this. So we're going to do something a bit differently. I have my training partner and significant other, Leanna. She's going to just put me on the hot seat, if you will, and we're going to run through just a few status updates and go over perhaps a few things that either I don't look too far into, or perhaps I won't share unless it's poked and probed. So that's what we have today. After all this random training footage, we're just simply going to go into that, and you guys can tune in if you want. I encouraged her to actually be as invasive as I thought she could. She was actually, I'd say, decently tame, but we did go over a few good topics and a few things that have been running through my mind of late. So that will be the journalist that has me on the hot seat, and from here we'll just run right into it. Okay, guys? Issue has been that I've been too surfacey with my reports. It's just like, here I am hitting some squats, eating spaghetti, drinking water.
You never eat spaghetti.
Shaking my protein. Yeah, we did. We had spaghetti when Norma came over that one time. Right? Thank you. I think that's what it was. Yeah. And so that's the biggest issue. Is just that, like, I'm very surfacey. I am like for sure a bottler when it comes to what I'm feeling and thinking. And I don't think that's right. I think the most entertaining fitness channels they have a little drama in them, and you actually get to see the person open up, and it's not just about, you know, how hungry they are and you know, how they wish they would have came out of their diet a little bit better, how they didn't place as well in their show as they would have liked. I think the really good stuff is when you really open up and you show the human side. And I don't think I do a good job of doing that because I'm just not comfortable doing that. I'm talking to a fucking camera here, and then from this camera it's going to just disperse out there, and anyone who stumbles upon the video is going to get a piece of that. So what I decided to do, I am going to have my lovely journalist here, Leanna Troy Carr, help me out and get some things that maybe I've left out these last few months. Maybe I haven't talked about in regards to my more current situation, and maybe some concerns that I might have moving forward from here. So completely different format, and maybe we'll get something that we can't. And again, if we don't, we just won't air this. We'll just go show me doing some front squats again or some shit like that, right? Yeah. So start. Get me going. All right. What should I tell? What do these people need to know?
All right. So, well, I see you train all the time, so I already know what this is. But what would you say your biggest struggle in the past couple weeks of training has been?
Biggest struggle. I think, yeah, doubting myself and whether or not I'm doing something right. And then when you're kind of in the middle of your off season, I think you're just it feels like you're at a standstill. You're really not. This is where you're going to make all the progress is going to show on stage, but you're just kind of sitting there, and then you're watching all these people move into the sport, and they're like fucking freaks of nature, and you're just sitting there, and you're like, shit, is what I'm doing right now good enough? Can I keep up with these guys? That has probably been the biggest struggle. It's just like, oh fuck, look at this guy, he's a fucking freak of nature. How am I going to beat this guy? Holy fucking shit, I could do everything right. He could just go to a Chinese buffet 2 days before, and then the day before, and then the day of, and still fucking beat me, and I did everything right, and that's definitely a little frightening.
So do you think that you're doing everything right now with training, with nutrition, everything right now that will bring you to your best next year, your best showing? So I know that's what you want to do.
That's a good question. I was picking my nose as you said that. So transparency. I think that training-wise, I am doing about as much as I can. I think nutritionally, there's a few flaws that I want to make better. I think one is perhaps just being a little bit better about eating enough, for sure. And then the other one is maintaining those streaks where I am eating enough, where I am sleeping enough. So it's everything outside of training, to be quite honest. I think that's probably where I struggle the most when it's off-season time. Am I doing everything right? And I think it's just human. It's just being so disconnected from where you want to end up. So I do 80-90% of what I should do right, but I think I need to do more than that, because I'm not gifted enough that I can just cruise at that. You know, there's people that are much more talented than I that, you know, get very close to that 100% mark.
Okay, so are you going to start doing that?
Yeah,
starting tomorrow, today?
Wow. I'm
serious.
Yeah, I think getting more.
Talk about it.
Yeah, getting more protein feedings is definitely something that I would probably it's kind of a just in case. It's what we know, and I think sometimes I don't do the best job of doing that. I think also just not eating enough. You know, it's very easy for me to fall behind on my food at a certain point and stay on top of that. So that's probably one. I also want to cut down on my drinking a little bit, I think that's a big one. Not a big one, not a functional alcoholic by any means, but I do think that that is, those are nutrients that can go somewhere else. And I think if you want to be a world-class athlete, I think, you know, perhaps making that a treat, you know. 3 a week used to be my thing, and I think since I've lived in Fort Collins, it's been more than 3 a week.
Good beer here.
Yeah.
Alright, let's talk about injuries. And I think the whole channel knows the injuries that you've had in the past couple years ago. So how is your front squat feeling now that you're squatting again? And is this something that you're still experiencing?
Yeah, I think I will forever feel the 20-something-year-old all over me. And I mean, you see, I struggle with it.
Yeah.
I do. It's not always easy, and part of it is just kind of being an athlete. I think if you're an athlete, you know, shit's going to fucking hurt. You know, you're a ballerina, shit's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
You know.
So where's that line? Like, where's, you know, the point where you keep pushing, or you need to take a step back and maybe not deadlift anymore, like you saw a couple months ago?
Yeah, I think if it's getting to the point where it's affecting my quality of life outside of the gym, like, hey, dude, you can't go on this hike because you're worried about, like, you know, just the fact that you can't do it because your hip feels twisted and from the hiking, or from the deadlifting. That's kind of where I cut. That's kind of where I draw the line. If it's affecting my quality of life, if whatever things I have going on right now get worse, I definitely, it's like I don't want any new shit. That's kind of been my thing. And I remember for a minute there when I was bench pressing, like my right bicep was kind of giving me some issues, and I'm like, I don't need something new. That thing's better now. So that's kind of where I draw it now. Is it all the injuries that I do have? There are things that I did in my 20s, things that I did when I wouldn't, you know, I wasn't thinking things all the way through. Sometimes I was kind of just living in the weight room moment, and now, now it's that's probably the main thing. Is like I need to stay healthy. If I stay healthy, I will be at my most productive. If there's one thing that slows me down the weight room, is the fact that I have to work around things, and I don't want it to slow me down anymore. So we just won't create any more new things to limp with.
Okay. What would you say your biggest weakness is on your body, just physique wise, and what are you doing as of right now to change that?
Everything from my waist up.
Okay.
My chest is extremely flat. My all my muscle bellies in my upper body just don't look good. I think the only, like, when I think about it, it's like, shit, my delts look good from the front, and then my legs look good from the front, and then after that everything's pretty, you know, that's kind of it. But I would say that the main issue is like from the waist up, and yeah, reprioritizing my workload so that most of it is in the upper body is something that's been hard, because you want to train the things you're good at, and then but it's gotten to the point now that it's like I don't want to start my season and see that I don't look the way I wanted to, or the way I projected to look at this point, and I'm willing to actually take a little atrophy, little transient atrophy in my lower region for the sake of making, you know, this stuff grow. So I'm okay if my legs take a step back. I'll just pick it back up towards the end. Everything will be back together, hopefully.
Well, I've seen an improvement, so don't be so hard on yourself. But I'm supposed to be making you feel bad, so I will.
Bad. That's not the goal. The goal is not to make me feel bad. The goal is to make me say things that I wouldn't say necessarily.
Okay, what would you say? So you coach, and I see you up every morning super early with your Skype consults, and then you're just working all day. What would you say the hardest part about being a coach is? And just like a good thing that coaching has taught you and that you're able to apply in other aspects of life.
Well, I don't even think it's the coaching. I think the coaching is pretty straightforward. I'm really good at that. I'm really good at that part. Really good. However, what is I think difficult sometimes is being an athlete that is kind of, that puts themselves out there. I think there's a lot of bodybuilders that would just get a thrill out of beating me. Simply because I put myself out there.
Because of your social media.
Because they see it as almost like boastful.
Coach. Yeah.
Why is he getting all this where when I'm a better bodybuilder? And like, you know, the thing is, like, it's not to stroke my ego. It's not. It's to like make people aware that this sport exists, and I think they should be doing the same thing too. So that's probably the hardest part, is that you kind of, sometimes you feel like you do have a target on your back. In some ways, especially when you're an athlete, and athletes are just super competitive, and no one wants to lose. You want the praise, right? And like, this dude's getting it, and he competes every 2-3 years. It's like, what the fuck, right? So that's probably I'd say the hardest part of being a coach, or an established coach, is it yeah,
just an established athlete in general.
People
I think at one point, before I even, like, well, I knew of you, and at one point I literally thought you were like the best bodybuilder, like natural bodybuilder in the world. Like Alberto Nuñez, he's like the, I mean, like, but people think you are, you know? Yeah, not saying that you're like not, but like you're not, you know, you haven't won a world championship yet. But I think that too, just having, because you are one of the more prominent natural bodybuilders out there on social media, you are kind of one of the faces of it, in my opinion. I think it's probably puts a little pressure on you.
It does.
Do you feel like it does? Does that ever, you know, affect you? Does social media presence, like, does that, like, are you afraid for next year because of that?
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to trip and fall, right? Like, you know, when it's snowy, you know, everyone's falling. If you live in the snow, you know that, like, dude, at some point you can eat shit for, like, no reason. It sucks to do it when no one's watching, but, like, if a lot of people watching, fuck, right? So that's probably definitely something that runs through my mind, is like, man, like, if you mess up and you don't make the gains you're supposed to make, and you don't have this season that so far it's been like this, what are people going to think? Like, hey, obviously he's not as good as we thought he was when it comes to being an athlete. He's not as good as we thought he was when it comes to being someone who is hired to make people progress, because obviously he can't even help himself out. So that is definitely on my mind.
So what do you do to combat those feelings, or prove those feelings wrong, or just what is something that you think you could do? I think, you know, personally, like, regardless of how you are as an athlete, which you're a damn good athlete, I think regardless of that, you know, just the fact that you do stuff like this and that you are very informative and helpful, I think people mainly look up to you for that. So I think that wasn't even a question, was it? So
no, you
that was just me talking. No,
you.
I'm serious.
Thank
though.
you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. That wasn't a question.
No, but I will make it into a question for you. I'll save you.
Are you making it into a question?
No, I'm just making this awkward on purpose. No. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a fine point, and I do think that regardless of if things don't go the way I planned them to go, I know one thing, and that's that I keep moving forward, and I'll just continue to get better as a bodybuilder and as a coach, and
okay.
That's all you can do. At the end of the day, like, your failures don't really matter. They don't. Not to be corrected.
Okay, so who do you think will win WNBF Worlds in a couple weeks?
Oh, okay. I'll leave it there. That'll be the last thing. We'll just to kind of hype up the year. WNBF Worlds is probably one of the top 3 biggest natural shows out there. Bjorn Cup, Worlds, and the DFAC is actually starting to do some pretty cool things too in regards to who shows up. But Worlds is like what I grew up with. The WNBF was like the fed that I wanted to be a part of when I was a kid. Who do I think will win? I am going to say, based on what I've seen, the competitor will come from the UK. I'll leave it there. I won't say nothing else.
Oh, snap. I know who you're talking about.
I'll leave it there. Okay.